So good evening from New Zealand again.
Good evening from Melbourne.
Awesome. And tonight I've got the lovely Adam Zaks, who is from Melbourne, which is pretty interesting because I've got quite a few people that I'll be interviewing from Melbourne. So there must be something pretty cool about your city. What do you reckon?
Of course. Well, we met in Melbourne. So, yeah, most livable city in the world, right? And it's coming from the most unpatriotic person on the planet.
Really? Yeah. So
Very proud to be an Earthling, not geared towards any one particular place or origin.
and I can definitely resonate with that, having moved pretty much most of my 33 years on the planet.
Yeah, you're actually one of the most floaty people I've met.
In a good
As far as location goes, yeah.
In a good way, floaty or fluffy?
I'm not talking about your personality. I'm talking about your location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very versatile. Okay, so tonight we're not as prepared as we'd like to be, but we think that's exactly how it should be, right?
That's right. That's right. As I was saying to you before, I think that a baby just being born would be the most unprepared for an interview because they haven't lived life yet. So being prepared for an interview is really just having a chat and talking about experiences.
Awesome. And I wanted to let people that are watching know how we met, because it's a little bit ironic and a little bit funny. Because, yeah, I wouldn't have ever guessed that 11 years later we'd be having this conversation in the way that we're having it now. But I met Adam about 11 years ago, I'd say, 2006, 2007, in my little stint in Melbourne, where I worked at a magical store that dealt with the cosmos and magic and the moon and the universe. And yes, exactly. And Adam used to just laugh at this. He worked across the road at a local florist.
Yeah, partially, but not completely. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just remember a lot of our conversations were about us not arguing, but maybe playfully arguing about the meaning of life. So it's funny that we're having a similar conversation now, probably a more balanced conversation, and more mature conversation. So
well, both of us have grown up a bit.
Exactly. So without further ado, I thought I'd introduce you formally. So Adam is I've written it down, health coach and a lifestyle philosopher. What does that mean, Adam?
Well, so basically the level of your philosophy dictates the quality of your life. So if you've got very poor philosophy, then you're not going to get such good results in any area that you're looking at. So if you've got really well thought out philosophy that serves the purpose of what you're looking at, then chances are you're going to get great results doing that. And even if you don't get great results from it, there's a balance to how you feel as a reaction or a response on that result. So even if it's a failure, your philosophy then relates back to, well, I've learned from it, rather than this hurts me. But, then I say that also pain is a source of growth as well. So there's many layers to the philosophy.
Okay. And does philosophy, do you mean like your values, the way you live your life, or is it slightly different to that?
Yeah, I think that your values relate back to the type of philosophy that you are able to have.
Okay.
So that I think that if you don't have a value around really high-level brain function, great sleep, awesome food, great relationships, great conversation, awesome music, and all the beautiful things, really smelling the flower and being in the moment and tasting the food that you're eating, hello. And
This one we prepared
when we
for
met,
you.
I was a florist when we met, so it's good that we mention the flowers. But being immersed in life, and I kind of, not in an ego way, but I kind of pride myself on being a bit of a connoisseur of life, and that's why I say lifestyle philosopher, because within that lifestyle philosophy, the two words to it is, I believe that if your philosophy around your lifestyle is of a high caliber, then there should be no area of your life that you're not enjoying. So no matter what you're doing, you should be enjoying it. You should be waking up in the morning and being incredibly grateful. One of my good friends, Dr. John DeMartini, actually talks about this. He says that he's got the longest list of gratitudes in the world, and he's proud about that. And I think that's really cool, because if you've got more to be grateful for, then you're going to live a really inspired, beautiful life.
Actually, I did see a photo recently. Was that you?
Yeah.
Was it in Melbourne that he was speaking, or?
It was, yeah. I always enjoy his talks. I go just to hear him speak. I was in the front row. Just clapping him on, keep going, buddy.
You were the A student.
Yeah, he's one of the many, I guess, indirect mentors that I absolutely love.
Okay.
I source my growth from many different pockets. He's definitely one of the great souls in this world. One of the great living ones.
So tell me then, since you're kind of making a reference to your personal life, so tell me a little bit about how you came to do what you do and what the inspiration was behind what you are doing.
Yeah, it's always, when people ask me that, it's always like this mind explosion, like, wow, what a big question. So I guess you want the short answer or the long answer with that, or something in between?
Well, you can do a short answer if you want to answer some other questions, or you can do the long answer, whatever you...
Yeah, I guess you can expand on it if you want to know more. So I was a professional soccer player, and I was embarking on a contract with West Ham United in the English Premier League, so the top flight, the best league in the world, in my opinion. And I was ready to go. I was feeling very confident, and I got a career-changing injury that sort of catapulted a whole new me, because if my soccer career is over, then I'm going to have to do something else that I enjoy, because the way I was born, kind of this son of very spiritual hippie parents, I wasn't going to do something that I hate. So I wasn't going to do what a lot of other kids do and listen to their parents and go, oh, I'm not going to go and be a lawyer or an accountant or something. In my opinion, very boring and pointless. But so anyway, this love of the physical, I realized, well, maybe I'll give personal training a go. And I was halfway through my course in 2004, and I suffered a burst appendix, which almost killed me. And in that moment, I had a massive epiphany, a massive sort of, my life flashed in front of my eyes, and I saw all the relationships that I ever had. I saw all the interactions that I had with people, this kind of photographic memory sort of feeling. And my dog that had died when I was a kid, and just crazy stuff. I was only 19 years old. And I thought, how can this guy be dying right now? And there was this intense, horrible pain I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And I just thought, this is impossible. Luckily, because I was an elite athlete, I had a really good, strong, big pumping heart, which actually ended up saving my life. The surgeon said it was the worst burst appendix he'd ever seen in his life, ever seen in his career. And he said that something magical kept you alive. And he said that he had looked at my blood and my resting heart rate and the way my muscles functioned. And he said, who are you? What's the deal? I said, oh, well, I train 4 hours a day. And he said, well, that'll explain it. That's why you're still alive. So it was really ironic that one area of my body malfunctioned and another area of my body saved my life.
Wow. And it's funny you mentioned the heart, because I know you're a Leo, because we've had many Leo conversations, but Leos rule the heart. They are.
Yeah, my heart's pumping very fast right now because I feel so passionate about this interview. Yeah.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
It's really cool that you decided to have our catch up after many years through a live interview.
Well, the funny thing is, I thought, how do I reconnect with people that I've met? I've met so many amazing people in my life because I've lived everywhere. Yeah. And sometimes Facebook just doesn't do it for me. All the chatting, all the likes, all that crap just doesn't do it for me. It's so lovely to have this exchange, and it feels extra amazing because we're recording it, and we haven't really had a chat before. We caught up for 2 minutes before we recorded it. So
yeah, I'll have to interview you back, because otherwise it's
yeah, just have to even the scores, right?
egotistical of me to just talk about me, but this is the structure, you know, you're interviewing me, so I'm quite happy to
Exactly.
share. But there was this massive shift that happened in that hospital. I was in there for 10 days, and I looked down at what used to be my big chunky soccer legs, and they were toothpicks, and that was demoralizing. And I felt really depressed. I felt like I'd lost my body. I felt I lost my health. And so, but there was this beautiful, incredible moment that has changed my life, I believe, forever. And it's what has and will create the legacy of what I'm about. And that is the journey home. The journey home from the hospital. I get emotional every time I think about this. I remember it so clearly, so vividly. I was looking up at the white fluffy clouds, and the sun was coming down onto my chest, and this beautiful breeze was going past my head like a dog with its tongue out the window of a car, just loving life. Because when you've been seeing white walls for 10 days, the first 5 days you didn't eat, and then all you could eat was this horrible plastic jelly, and then you've got the realness of life again kind of just slapping you across the face, you're just going, damn, this is incredible. So I looked up at this beautiful sky, and I thought, okay, so now I've got the concept of what I need to do. And so this injury with the soccer and the burst appendix, the setbacks, is actually what made me the health coach and lifestyle philosopher, because I thought that if an elite athlete can almost die of a burst appendix, imagine what the day-to-day society are going through, haven't had this history in sport, who don't train 4 hours a day and don't think about this stuff yet. So I made it my point to study everything there was to read on the digestive system, on the endocrine system, on psychology, philosophy, spirituality, to get into psychedelics, to explore the realms of the human brain, to figure out the different components of what's what, and just human relationships and the human condition. And everything there was to understand about the external and internal consciousness, and sort of figure out the different things in play, like discovering that there's the lens is your eyes, the best lens in the world, and it sees really beautiful, but it doesn't have vision. What has vision is the projector in the back of your brain telling the eyes what to see. And so this, I think, is a problem with a lot of day-to-day society, is that they think that their eyes is what is telling the brain what to see, but the brain tells the eyes what to see. And if you get that the right way around, then you start to get a little bit more introspective about what's really going on. And, so the Instagram stuff, I get a lot of joy out of my Instagram stuff, because I will meditate, I will get introspective about an idea or a problem or an issue that myself or a client is facing, and I will kind of get poetic and construct the right words to go with the problem, which is not only a solution, but is a beautiful creative play on laughing at the problem. And sort of, I have a lot of fun with it. And a lot of it is tongue in cheek. And I guess that's why sometimes you've said you might have to explain what you mean by that, because sometimes I'm one step ahead of my own philosophy, where I mistakenly jump steps in the explanation. So people don't know where I was before the arriving at the conclusion, which is the high ultimate philosophical statement, which is often sometimes one sentence. You know, when the greats come up with their one-liners, they're so profound that it's almost kind of like, please explain. And so,
can I just explain to people watching what you mean? Because I think we had that conversation off camera. So I was chatting to Adam, and he was just using a few jokes, one-liners, and I was sitting there going, huh? So that's why you're making that comment.
Yeah. And I've played with this thought a lot, you know, when I was a lot younger, I think even before I met you, I was always like this, you know, and I used to think, well, if you're not intelligent enough to understand my jokes and my philosophy, then you're just, you know, kind of not good enough to talk to me. And I evolved through that. And there's that I evolved.
You're not worthy. You're not worthy.
Yeah, and like that is ridiculous, because if it's complete abstract, how do you expect anyone to understand? But you know, I do believe there's an intelligence behind it. But then with the creative side and with the science combined, because what I do, if you were to figure out where it comes from, it's an equal 50-50 science and philosophy, or science and the spiritual combined together to create a creative articulation of what it is to be healthy.
Look, I'm trying to think about, because you just talked about this incident in 2004, and I'm just trying to remember, because we met 2006, 2007, and I don't remember this story. I don't know if maybe you hadn't processed this story. So, or if you just didn't.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I may have told you, but I guess, you know, other things come up in the conversation, and then sometimes things get washed over, and it can be almost as if it didn't get spoken about, because sometimes conversation happens like that. It goes from one thing to the next, and it's kind of like, oh, well, he didn't talk about that very much, so it mustn't have been very important to him. So I think it just really depends on the timing of when you catch someone in a conversation as to what seems to be the important thing to them, which is.
And sometimes I think with some things it does take a few years, depending on the person, for us to realize how big or significant an event was.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we process things very quickly, and other times we process slowly. Well, this is for my own life. I think I process things a lot quicker these days than I used to. Anyway, we might get off track. But I wanted to ask you about something interesting you mentioned in one of the emails that we had exchanged, which was one of your aims was to inspire people to live bigger, live better. And you were kind of being very poetic when you were talking about when you left the hospital, and kind of reminding people to live in the moment. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you kind of do that? Like, and what kind of people you get to work with and talk to, and how do you actually inspire them to look outside the life they're living? Sorry about all the hands. I'm European. I'm European.
That's an incredible question, and I'll do my best to answer it as linear as I can, because my mind does wander from spot to spot. But you know, I was thinking about this today, a really cool old concept, and that's the crabs in the bucket. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
Society is kind of like crabs in the bucket, and so there's all these people holding themselves back from their true greatness. But what ends up happening with that is that they then, with their claws, grab hold of the other crab who's trying to climb up the bucket to escape. And so they're pulling that crab back down so that no crabs can get out of the bucket, and we're all kind of stuck down the bottom. So there's this kind of societal bullshit going on of mediocrity. And that's, you know, I know that, you know, before the interview started, you mentioned that you yourself don't want to offend anyone, and I don't either. But I will say that there is an intensity and there is a bluntness to some of my concepts and some of my passion, because it's important to be so. It's important to metaphorically and psychologically and spiritually slap people across their spiritual face, so that they can wake up, because a lot of people are dead, and you know, you've only got this one life. And recently, in the last few years recently, I have come into the realization that first I thought, and you're about the stars and the planets, so you could probably correct me on a lot of this stuff, but from what I understand, initially I thought all the stars and the planets, the entire contents, what they're made up of, the molecules and the structure and the atoms, everything that is up there is inside us. But then as I evolved through that, I realized that science has actually discovered that there's more cells and bacteria inside our body than the entire rocks up there, than everything going on up there, which leads to the fact that we are a living God. And so that is really powerful to help someone that may have depression. You know, that is maybe just something that you're going through at the moment. And I've often said, you know, when you talk about some of the concepts that I've got, you know, your emotions are not yours to keep. They're a passing gift to enjoy and to savor and to look at and to think of as a beautiful thing. And if you can look at something from a bird's eye perspective, you know, when I cry, to not be caught up in the pain itself, to maybe look from a bird's eye perspective or the third eye and look down at this individual who's crying and see the beauty in the tears and go, wow, something must have been pretty unbelievably intense to bring this person to tears, and then to say, wow, that's beautiful. That is so incredible. And then to just go, wow. And if you can do that, if you can separate yourself from the pain, then you're looking at the pain then as a tool rather than something that's beating you over the head with. So instead of us slapping ourselves around with these emotions, we can actually learn from it. I believe that we have the endocrine system and our emotions for a reason, because it's a relationship between the spiritual world and that physical state. If we didn't have if we didn't have the physical state, we wouldn't have something called pain. And pain is there to teach us.
Mm. And when you talk about pain, are you talking about physical pain as well, or?
Yeah, so what's really interesting, Mia, is as I've evolved with this and understood the science behind it, all pain is physical, because what you may be alluding to is then the psychological pain. And so, or, you know, the emotional pain. But if you look at it as, say, you know, not to get too scientific, but if you did look at that under the microscope, you would see the molecules and the structure of that emotional pain, which is a physical trait. So it is actually all physical when you're looking at those components. And then when you're looking at the spiritual realm, you're looking at something more on a spiritual level. So if you can tie the two in together, then you're kind of skillful with your philosophy.
I actually appreciate the science that you're sharing, because the intention of this is to be really broad and open to different people. And some people might align with the spiritual aspects, whereas other people actually might appreciate the scientific. And that might actually bring them closer to the spiritual and merge the two.
Yeah, both are important.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think if anyone evolves enough, they will come to a point where they understand both beautifully.
So earlier you talked about people being dead, and I know you were more speaking about metaphorically. How do you see that in our society?
Yeah.
I'm going to check the time too, because I know.
Sure.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sure,
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate, and then there's a lot of empathy from me, because I've been there. I've been I wouldn't say dead, but I've been extremely depressed at times, where you sort of think, what's the point? But the really cool thing that if you can get introspective enough within those times, they can be some of the most amazing things to look back on, because you can get quite existential in those times and think about life from a why are we here point of view. Because if you're feeling like, what's the point in all this? And, you know, there's people out there that are right now, I know as we speak right now, thinking, maybe I should just die. And so, you know, what I want to say to these people is, well, it's not the ideal thought pattern, obviously, and they probably know that. If you can sit in it and learn something from it and get introspective about it, you'll know that you've probably been there before, and you somehow found a way out. And then you remember times where you were just in this ecstatic bliss, just incredibleness. And so, you know, as I come back to, you know, your emotions aren't yours to keep. They're passing gifts to use as a tool.
But what about these people that don't have the tools that you and I have?
Yeah,
that appeal.
I urge them to, doesn't have to be with me, doesn't have to be with you, but I urge them to have a chat to a friend or a family member who is in a positive state, who have a lot of love to give. And if you've got an abundance, see, if you're in a state where you're resourceful enough, you can then give. But if you're feeling unresourceful, and if you're feeling, battered down by society, it's then very hard to give. So there's plenty of people out there that are really, really happy, who are also really extreme givers of their heart. And so there's people out there that are more than happy to help out. So you should really just to reach out. And hey, look, not everyone's into this, but some people even just, you might disagree with this. So some people might just write a Facebook status and go, "I'm not good." And then, it's interesting because I have sent a message to some of these people and I go, "Are you okay?" And that's nice, because then it shows, hey, because I've been in a state where you're beating yourself up and you think, oh, no one cares. And so that is a sign from the universe showing someone cares.
Okay.
But if you haven't had that message from someone, ask more. Ask and you shall receive.
Excellent. Where to next? Can you give some specifics about maybe a client or someone you've worked with that's really shifted through some of the things that they worked through with you?
Yeah, just recently. It's been an amazing journey with one of my clients. He's gone from being extremely eaten up inside from a relationship that ended, and he was very, very sad, and didn't have any direction in his life, didn't know what to do. Works as a forklift driver. And so so we started to look at each area of his life. And so I just wanted to give him the opportunity to see the opportunity, in each area of his life. And so we're just kind of like a tick-off system, just going through each component. Are you training? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? What are your thoughts like? So we started looking at affirmations, morning and night. So morning and night. So why morning and night? Because they're bookends of the day. And if the bookends are positive, generally the meat inside is going to be positive. But also, if you look at it the other way, your dreams are going to be positive too. Dreams can be really intense, and then it can affect our day. So he's, started to get him to look at affirmations. So I guess I don't want to assume again. So for those of you who don't know what an affirmation is, it's basically you might have a very negative statement around something that you're going through in your life. So around money, it might be something like, "I'm always broke," which is a very negative way to think about money. And the universe will say, "Oh, you're always broke." The universe will go, "You're always broke. So there you go. You're always broke. Here you go. Be always broke." So, I'm something along the lines of just converting it into something you're not going to even believe initially. Everything I touch turns to gold sort of line of thinking. And initially you're kind of thinking, I don't know, that doesn't really sound right. I'm in the negative. But money is an energy just like everything else, and something that I had to overcome myself. And when I was younger, I didn't have that belief around money, even though I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad as a 12-year-old.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I've just always had an extreme curiousness to everything. But maximizing human potential. And so I read psychology books, philosophy books, money books, gardening book, whatever I can get my hands on, really, something, whatever helps us live better. I just, something in my brain just went, did you answer her question?
And I was like, I don't know if, and I was actually thinking, I don't know if he's answering my question, but this is fine.
I do that a lot. I'm really sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. Because
a bad listener.
No, but sometimes when you've
Ask
got,
me about a client.
yeah, you asked you about a client and you did kind of get there, but how did it end? So
Okay, so
affirmations, get back to the point. So
we're
you
still on a journey, obviously.
mm,
I've only been coaching him probably for about a month, but I've seen a massive transition, going from talking really softly and very, just to Adam. I want this bad. I want this bad. I can't wait to get up the next morning and processing things that happened with the girl. He, he looks back on it and sees the lessons in it, and sees why she wasn't right for him, and sees he was giving too much of himself, giving up too much of himself, and not living true to his heart in the other areas of his life. Yes, he loved her, but he didn't work on what he needed to work on for him. I said to him, and I think this is true for both men and women, that as you start to upgrade your own operating system inside, then you're also then attracting a higher caliber of person as you go along. And
yeah.
I see your husband, or your partner, and father of your kids, and I see, and I've never met him. I've never even heard him speak. He has a certain presence and a certain positivity and an energy that I just see, and I have this intuition with people, and I see that is a massive upgrade from where you were at. I knew you as a single girl, but I also knew you based on the stories you were telling. It seems so centered, this guy, and I haven't even spoken to him.
Well, it would be lovely to introduce you. Thank you for saying, I mean, he is what you see, and he's such a man of few words, and I love that he's not on social media, because I like to keep my relationship sacred and private to an extent.
Yeah.
He knows he features on my social media. He just doesn't want to be
at the beach with the kids. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, but no, thank you for that. And I definitely agree with, you attract what you are. And you attract also the lesson sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and I know that you've had some, I don't know how much you want to divulge about your personal life.
I can a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously don't go too deep if you're not ready for that. But you spoke about your client. And to me, it's always interesting to hear both male and female perspectives after breakups, and what purpose do breakups serve in our life. I know we're kind of going off topic, but who cares? Because I think people can get some value from just being vulnerable and sharing if you're open.
Definitely. So, in sort of upgrading this operating system, I do believe that the last beautiful girl I was with, we almost got married. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But, I look back on it. I look back on the beautiful memories and the lessons. What I've said to a lot of clients is that, you should never look back on the past as positives and negatives, because you're labeling it as something and you're putting a lid on what actually happened. Both the positive experiences, the happy experiences, and the lessons, you're putting a lid over both of them as positive and negative. And that's it. And you're just shutting your brain off. You're shutting your physiology off. You're shutting your spiritual understanding off to what actually happened in your past. So our amygdala in our brain, our emotional memory center, is there for a reason. It's there to teach us. If it wasn't there, then if it wasn't there, then we wouldn't have it. Like, I don't know.
It keeps us safe. Yeah, our amygdala keeps us safe, right?
In some ways, but it's also, our amygdala is kind of, in my opinion, a storyteller as well. Based on your projector, and I say how you see reality, you think of your past based on how you think of your past. It's not, another philosopher who is pretty cool, but I don't remember his name. It's something along the lines of, it's not what happens to us that makes us happy or not happy. It's how we think about what happens to us.
Or how we respond to it, I've often heard.
Yeah, that is, I often heard that too. This is a slightly different tilt to that, of how we think about what has happened to us, because that goes after whatever responses or reactions that happened, we're still looking back on the responses, the reactions, what happened, all the events, all of that. If we then, as a resulting thing, we're thinking, how do I feel about that? It changes things positively or negatively. This is where we can say positively and negatively. I say positively for your continuing health, or negatively if you're going to hold on to it and use it to beat yourself over the head with. So I look back on the relationship, and yes, there's things that weren't to my liking, and I'm sure we miss each other, but these things, they come and go for a reason. And I look back on it as great, and I look back on it also with thank you. I really learned a lot about myself, so thanks for that. It was just unfortunate that it ended 5 weeks before the wedding, that's all.
And that's the sting. But how amazing that you're able to, even like this soon, some people take years to shift, through something like that.
Yeah.
But how amazing that you're able to see it through the lens of gratitude, because that can only really move you forward, right?
Yeah.
Well, I hope.
Yeah, thank you. I think my friends and a few other coaches, they saw a shift in me also when my dad passed away 3 years ago. They saw that I was already pretty well thought out, and I had a lot going for me, yada, yada, yada. And I was in a good spot of my life in many ways. But they did see a shift, that when he passed away, there was a handing over of the baton of manliness, of I've got this, of like, well, my dad's gone now, so I step up to the plate as the new man of my family name and my kingdom. And used to, as a Leo, used to call me a lion cub.
I was just having that image of the lion.
And I do believe that now I'm a fully fledged lion, and we always keep developing and evolving and growing.
Lions are still teenagers, I think. There's always that youthful energy, but anyway.
Yeah, there's a playfulness, but I have to be the king of the jungle now because my dad's gone. So if you're facing something, usually look for that pillar of strength. What do you think, Dad? And now it's Dad's in here. What do you think, Dad? What would Dad say? And then it's often when I'm talking to people and I'm helping people, I hear and I feel Dad. And sometimes I've even said to my clients, because there's a realness to my coaching, I say, that was actually my dad speaking through me right then. So it's like a lot of pride and a lot of strength that comes from that, because I love him dearly. And he taught me some really powerful lessons about life and street smarts and the human psychology and travel. He was a traveler, so he was a globetrotter, and he really understood stuff. That was his thing.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. We've gotten into different themes, so I really appreciate that. And what is your belief now? Because I can only go back to 11 years ago, and I don't even know if I knew this, but do you believe he's with you? Like, do you believe in the afterlife? Because I know you're more scientific than I am. I appreciate science a lot more now than I did back then. But but what do you believe about it now?
Yeah, but there's other pockets of people who see me as a psychedelic spiritual tripper as well. So it just depends on,
which aspect you show to who and when. And
so on that realm, on the spiritual realm, I was doing a part-time cleaning job just to help me with my rent in the gym. About a year ago, a year or two ago, and I was walking down one of the corridors of this building, and I looked down at my legs, and they weren't my legs, they were my dad's legs, because we have a similar walk.
Okay.
It was trippy, so literally.
Okay.
So I was looking down at my legs, and I go, "Hi, Dad."
Wow.
My dad was carrying me.
Wow. I got goosebumps. I don't know if you know what that means.
Yeah, I do, and I got a spiritual goosebumps in saying it. Like I had to kind of just stop and pause and just put my body up against the wall of the hallway. I just went, "Whoa, that was intense." That's never happened before. Wow. And so that was really cool because I wrote about it. But that was really cool because I thought, oh, okay, I was missing you. You are here.
Mm.
How you doing? And so it's like, yes, Adam, I've got your back.
And your legs, or you've got mine.
Yeah, but so to speak. I'm tearing up a bit. But yeah, that was intense. So so there's this really cool thing that's happened over time, and it's why one of the many reasons why I'm passionate about living. And I recently said in a vlog that I haven't launched yet. I said the words, "Let's make living an obsession."
Mm.
And I am obsessed about things like that, where there's a combination of that really scientific amygdala, emotional brain, and kind of thinking about things logically, and then the spiritual realm coming through you like a steam train at the same time, and bridging the gap between the two and going, yeah, life's pretty unbelievable. And so I'm made up of the lessons that I've had psychologically, and I'm made up of the spiritual growth that happens through me that I can't control, that I just allow in. And so I love the way Wayne Dyer puts it when he's written all of his books that he's ever written. He talks about the fact that he didn't write them, that there was this inspiration, this spiritual realm that came through him, and that's where the words came from in order to write. And I do write like that. And so I will make a feeling post, articulation in words, and I put a picture with it, and I go, universe, have it. But I'm saying but I really feel like it's not I, because sometimes I look back at some of the things I've written and I go, wow, that's really cool.
I could read that. I need some of that wisdom.
I look back on this past Adam Zaks and I'm thinking, wow, thanks, man. That's really cool. Thank you. So there's a gratitude to the past self. Yeah. So I'm not just putting it out there for humanity to look at in a few hundred years' time as one of the philosophers, being proud that I was one of the philosophers, but also looking back on it in my physical state years later and going, oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
And Adam, you mentioned the vlogs. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but do you have
it's a new concept to me. Vlogging, I think it's called.
Vlogging, okay.
There was what do they call it when it's just writing?
Blogging. Oh my God,
so
we're so not a hipster. We like miss the hipster ages behind us. Anyway,
yeah, we had to adapt. But there was this thing called blogging. So people are writing this stuff, and then people started to vlog. And so I've recently gotten into that, and I've created a second YouTube channel, a new updated YouTube channel, where the original YouTube channel was the psychology, the nutrition, and the health coaching. And it's, hi, Adam, I'm Adam Zaks, the health coach. And it's sort of like this kind of very much kind of advertising kind of voice. Like, why is he talking like that?
Yeah.
And then it's more like this now in my recent vlogs, where it's, do you want to meet the real Adam Zaks? Welcome to my life. Come inside, This is my bedroom. So it's sort of like,
and I think
welcome inside.
But more and more people prefer that because that's the reality. And I think when we get slammed with all these images on social media, we had a chat, I think before we recorded, I can't remember now, but people want to see a reality. People want to feel, because we all have the same feelings. Are you looking at the time? Have we gone like over our 54 minutes?
I was briefly.
We have. But it's a good reminder to kind of wrap it up, as much as we'd love to stay for another 3 hours. But I
could go for another 3 hours, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Well, we'll like I say to everyone, we'll do a take 2 or like part 2. But do you have a link, or will you just send it to me separately and I'll put it under the video? What do you prefer?
Okay, so I'll quickly wrap this up, because I feel that I know, because I've done a lot of audio and vlogs and different bits and pieces where you have to round things off creatively. So I know where we want to go with this.
Okay, cool.
So just to round off from that client from before, the last missing piece to the psychology, the nutrition, the training, all that sort of stuff was giving him some sort of model to go with from a financial point of view. And so I've given him an opportunity to then look at his life differently financially as well, which he's now really pumped about. So that's something I can offer people. A financial opportunity where they don't need to initially have the skills, but it's something that can be taught to them. And then with my second website that's getting built, it's going to have an online store. And on this online store, it's going to have all the audiobooks that I've recorded with my voice, so people that I'm aligned with. At the moment, I'm working on my psychology professor friend, and he's written a beautiful book about the relationship between the heart and the brain. And so, really cool book. And so that's my next audiobook project. And I'm also working on 4 spiritual modules. My subject will be holistic spirituality, so getting to a spiritual realm through the science. So something you'd be interested in. So that's 5 hours of content. And I'm having to do that in amongst my coaching, my personal training, my nutrition business that I'm rebuilding, and audio stuff, social life. It's crazy. But the website is going to have the audio stuff, the A to Z Health program that I've been working on now for half my life. And it's basically all the ins and outs of what I'm about poetically, the poetic articulation of health. So they're 30-minute chapters with very introspective questioning at the end of each chapter. So it's not just you listen to it and go, yeah, that's interesting, but having questions so you can do something about what you've learned. So you're actually applying the knowledge and applying the teaching. Then supplements, gym equipment, the whole works. So it's meant to be a one-stop shop for health. And then there's the free, the complimentary read-ups about different subjects. So there's categories on depression, on addiction, on relationships, on money, on the different elements. Just a brief recap and some videos relating back to that, sort of tying it all in together. And a very strong influence on music as well, because I love my music. So talking about the really positive sounds, positive vibrations, and the positive lyrics that go with it. So the best songwriters in the world that have used their poetry and their philosophy to create beautiful music with positivity to help people to live better lives. So instead of listening to just thrasher music all the time, it actually has a negative effect on you to be listening to a broad array of music, instrumental and also lyrical music, so that we're looking at all aspects of our life. And so that's the website. There's the Instagram, Adam Zaks on Instagram, Adam Zaks on Facebook, A to Z Health Facebook page. What else is it? And my vlog, my new vlog channel is just Adam Zaks, Adam Zaks, Adam Zaks. And that's that at the moment, I think. But I've got a lot of projects on the go, so it's hard to remember it all. And there's a anxiety in my brain of I've got all these things to do and I'm just one guy. So I think as I've evolved from a business point of view, I've realized that we need to delegate more and more, which is why I have a car detailer and I've got someone working on my website, and I'm adding more and more people to the A to Z Health Collective is what I like to call it. And you're part of it, naturally. The A to Z Health Collective is a group of people that want to see the world shine. So it's basically people who are good at what they do and they believe in my vision and want to help the cause.
Thanks, Adam. I'll edit all the links and things into the video.
I thought you were going to say I'll edit all of your
Yeah,
all of your swearing or all of your.
I'll edit you out. I'll edit you out. That was too long. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate you chatting with me so last minute. I think it was better, and definitely love to catch up again.
I will interview you back. Let's make time, and I'll interview you back.
Awesome. So excited. But any last little mini words of wisdom before we say goodnight?
Yeah. The past and the future is an illusion. And all that matters is right now. Although we do have lessons from the past and we do aspire for certain things to happen in the future, but we have no idea about what's really going to happen. We can kind of create it, but we're really just creating things in the moment in order to then have something in the future. So it's, the past and the future is literally an illusion because it can't exist, because it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And then, you evolve with that because I guess there's more to it because, you can live in the moment and the past and the future is important, but it's kind of more of a concept rather than a reality. But I think people get caught up in the concept rather than just now.
Cool. Okay. Adam Zaks, everyone. And with that, good night.
Good night. We'll speak soon.
Bye.